To date, Stellaris has 18 pieces of gameplay affecting DLC, and each of them comes with new features that can entirely change how the game plays, be that for a specific playstyle or every single one of your games. But which of these DLCs are worth picking up, and which ones can you happily ignore? Today we're going to put every single DLC in Stellaris into a tier list from must buy to must bye-bye. So let's get started with Plantoids. The first DLC to ever hit Stellaris, and it's a species, so that means you're only ever going to make use of this one if you're playing as a Plantoid empire or making use of any of their traits. For the civics, you have catalytic processing, which lets you turn food into alloys, and idyllic bloom, which lets you slowly terraform worlds into Gaia planets. And for the species traits, we have phototropic, which replaces half of the food upkeep with energy, radiotrophic, which does the same but removes this for pops on tomb worlds, as well as making them more habitable, and budding, which slowly produces organic pops from each of your existing pops. As for their style, they're walking, talking plants, so if you're into that whole vibe, then you'll like how these guys look, since it follows that same motif of a space-age plant people. Since this is a species pack, I feel like it's inherently impossible to get into must-buy, since they are almost always down to personal preference. If you're really into food focus and using that to fuel the rest of your economy, then these are a fun species to have a go at, but they aren't much more interesting beyond that, so they're going into only if you really want it. Next up we have Leviathans, and this is a DLC that affects pretty much every single game you play, or at least the elements will always be there. This DLC comes with 3 new features to your games. Guardians, which are powerful single-entity fleets spread throughout the galaxy which can be defeated and are investigated through science to net your empire all kinds of rewards. Enclaves, which are non-player outposts which can offer you all kinds of goods and services such as leaders, resources and more. And War in Heaven, which adds fallen empires to the galaxy, which can fire up massive wars if the mood takes them and send the galaxy into a bit of chaos, no matter which side, if any, you find yourself on. To me, this is a much more impactful DLC since you'll come across at least one of these things in every single game you play, and most of the time make use of one, if not all of them. They're nothing insanely game-breaking or essential, but they do give you something else fun to play around with when managing your empire. The Guardians in particular offer a great challenge for later game empires to take on for massive rewards if they haven't found a scientific solution. I'm going to put it into fun for most people, since it's not super expensive and the features aren't very hard to jump in and have fun with, so newer players can enjoy them as much as veterans. Next up we have Utopia, and if you know anything about Stellaris, you know that this DLC is basically essential since it adds so many core game features that without it you're basically playing half a game. Without going into too much detail, the DLC adds the core megastructures to give you late game projects to increase all areas of your empire, habitats to allow you to build tall or just exponentially increase your population, traditions which offer you a whole range of bonuses for every single playstyle, indoctrination of primitive worlds to give more pops, the hive mind empire type that can only assimilate, enslave or purge other organics, 2 new origins, syncretic evolution, which starts the game with a second population of a subservient species, mechanist, which starts the game with 8 robots and the ability to make more, the Fanatic Purifies Civic, which removes diplomacy options but can purify any other empire they see fit and get some serious combat buffs whilst doing it. And finally, Enhanced Slavery. Bit of dark note to end on, but this DLC is jam-packed with so much content that even at the relatively high price of nearly half the base game, it's honestly a must-buy. It just has so many things that make the game feel like a complete experience, and playing without it you're just missing out and basically playing a beta game mode. Next up we have Synthetic Dawn. This DLC introduces the new machine empires which can take on a variety of playstyles, but all of them run with no food and basically live forever. They're a very unique empire to play since you don't really need to worry about habitability or farming and can instead focus all your energy onto mass expansion and one of the 3 approaches to the other empires: exterminators to purge all organics, assimilators to assimilate organics into androids, or servitors who seek to place organics on a pedestal. No matter which you pick, there's a range of cosmetic and practical options when creating an empire, as well as 3 presets if you want to play right away. Machine empires also have the versatility tradition tree, which replaces diplomacy and focuses on many aspects of the empire such as production and interaction with others. Finally, the DLC also adds fallen machine empires to your games, which can be extremely powerful and hard to take out should they turn on you. Now this should go into fun for most people if it wasn't for one thing. Utopia being a must-buy and including hive minds mean that machine empires aren't quite as unique as they could be. They're fairly similar to hive minds in a lot of ways, and not really unique enough to warrant them being an essential pick. Don't get me wrong, they're a really fun empire and do have a number of unique aspects, but these species packs do come down to personal preference, so if you're into robots, you will like these guys. If not, then you can probably avoid them just fine. Next comes the Humanoids, another species pack, so again we're talking about content that you're only really going to see if you go out of your way to use it. The DLC adds 3 new civics: Masterful Crafters, which creates artificers which produce large amounts of consumer goods and some trade value, Pleasure Seekers, which allows a decadent living standard at the cost of increased upkeep, and Pompous Purists, which ignore all other attempts at diplomacy aside from their own. You also get the Clone Army Origin, which produces clone soldier pops that can lead to more powerful fleets and armies, the Vor Technocracy preset, and then a host of cosmetic options for crafting your own empire. I feel like I have to put this one into only if you really want it, but just know I'm putting it at the low end of that block since this is for sure one of the weaker bits of paid content. The civics aren't anything crazy, the origin won't drastically change your playstyle. As far as cosmetics go, in a game where you can be a jellyfish or a rock, humanoids are kinda weak. Next we have Apocalypse. This DLC focuses mainly on warfare, introducing 2 new ship types. Titans, which are massive capital ships which lead your fleets to victory with a range of bonuses to nearby allied crafts, and Colossus, which are planet killer behemoths which come in 5 flavours depending on your empire stance. It also adds the Marauders, which are small empires who will raid others nearby randomly or work for the highest bidder. These can occasionally join up under a Khan, resulting in a true galaxy-wide threat if not handled properly. It also adds late game edicts known as ambitions that cost tremendous amounts of unity but also come with seriously powerful effects. You're also getting the barbaric despoiler civic, can war with anyone else, as well as raid planets for resources. You're also getting 2 new origins, Life Seeded, which starts in a Gaia world with powerful features and a desire to find more, and Post-Apocalyptic, which starts in a Tomb world with a preference for more. This seemingly large amount of content, to be honest, doesn't really impact your game all that much. The new Titan is pretty nice, but the Colossus ends up being more of a gimmick than anything else. Unless enemies have a truly impenetrable planet, it's almost always better to invade using armies rather than destroy any resources the planet might hold. Marauders add some chaos to the mix, but are more of an annoyance than anything. I can count on one hand how many times I've used an ambition, and the new origins and civics are nice, but you'll likely use them exactly once. At full price it's far too expensive, but if you can get it super cheap, it can offer some fun RP. Outside of that, it's not great, so I'm going to have to stick it in must. Bye bye. Next up we have Distant Stars, and this DLC actually adds quite a few new features for a cheaper piece of content. L-gates are added to the galaxy which can be investigated to eventually discover a new constellation outside of our own, full of new resources and planets, but just as much mystery and danger. This DLC also adds a ton of anomalies to the game which I've found when surveying and can be researched for all kinds of bonuses. There are also many new solar system types added to the galaxy generator, as well as 3 new Leviathans to be exterminated or researched for massive bonuses. If you ask me, the anomalies are the real hero here since they give you plenty to investigate in the mid-game and can make your territory so much more valuable once completed. The rest of the content is a little bit hit or miss, so you can ignore the bulk of it and still have a fairly complete game. For that reason, I'm going to put this one into catch it on a sale. At full price, it's not worth it, but if you can get it cheap, the extra anomalies and the rest of it add a lot to every game. Next we have Megacorp, and this of course introduces Megacorps which come with their own list of civics and unique gameplay style. The branch officers offer some fun on trade partner planets for extra bonuses to both parties. Monopolipses are strong if you can manage to pull them off. The new megastructures are pretty decent but not overly needed for most games. Traders are the same, nice and sometimes offer good stuff, but mainly can be ignored if you want, and the slave market is a unique addition to say the least. Everything related to the megacorps themselves comes down to personal preference, so aside from that we have the new megaplanets, megastructures, traders and slaves. Like I said earlier, all this stuff is actually decent and can be fun, but you don't have to use any of it in every game to be successful. Once you take into account the price, I think this one falls firmly into the low end of only if you really want it, since the main selling point is a playstyle that not everyone will want to get on board with, and the extra features are fairly necessary to have a good time. Ancient Relics is next up, and this DLC adds all manner of artifacts to the game found in excavation sites across the galaxy. Alongside this we have 2 precursor species in the galaxy with their own quest chains, and the new Relic planet type which can be strong for research but slow to populate. It's a pretty condensed DLC that focuses on one thing, but that makes it really good at that one thing. Excavations are a great use of science ships in the mid to late game, and you can find some seriously powerful stuff if you have the right luck. All the content in this DLC can be enjoyed in every game without going out of your way, and will offer benefits outside of just keeping yourself busy. Even at full price, I would say this DLC is fun for most people, since you can use it in every game, whatever the playstyle. Next we have Lithoids, another species pack, so I'm sure you can guess where this one is going, but let's go through all the content just to make sure. Lithoids are rock-based life forms, and as such work a little differently than most. Instead of food, they consume minerals to survive, meaning those early days can be rough with mass production needed to satisfy your pops while also expanding. On this diet you get extra long life pops that are happy to live on almost any planet and look fairly cool while doing it. And that's honestly about it. Honestly, of all the species packs, this one feels the weakest so far since Lithoids lack anything really interesting outside of what we've just mentioned. Slow growth and mineral eating doesn't make them all that interesting. Yes, they look cool, but that isn't enough. In a shocking turn of events, they're going to be placed into must bye-bye since I just can't recommend them over any of the other species packs, and you can easily ignore them without missing basically anything. Next we have Federations, and this adds a ton of new features mainly focusing on diplomacy. Of course, there's the new Federations feature that allows groups of empires to band together as a federation to unlock powerful rewards for all members as long as you continue to work together. The galactic community will now form in the mid-game, and any empire that joins it will get to vote on a massive number of issues that will affect everyone in the galaxy and bring you together just as easily as tear you apart. This DLC also introduced Origins, meaning without this, all of your games will start the exact same, rather than the variety of all the base and DLC Origins offered. And finally we have a couple of megastructures in the form of the Juggernaut and Mega Shipyard. This is more content that really does feel like it's meant to be in the game, so charging an extra £16 for it can seem fairly steep, and yet you get so much content in this pack that it's hard to say no. I just have to put this into must buy since it really adds so much to every single game. Even if you don't bother with Federations, the community and Origins occur in every game and seriously shake up how everything plays out, so are well worth the price of admission. Next up we have Necroids, another species pack, and this one is all about the undead. You get in the unique Necrophage origin. You got 3 new civics, Death Cults which allow your empire to perform ritual sacrifices for various rewards, Reanimators which allows necromancers necromancers to recruit undead armies for you, and memorialists who honour those before them with all kinds of stability and unity-based rewards, and then a ton of cosmetics to make your very own Necroid empire. Honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed here, since the gameplay of the Necroids could really be unique and interesting, since consuming other pops to sustain yourself does sound pretty badass, but the execution of it just lacks a little something to bring it all together. You have the origin and a few civics, and outside of that it's all cosmetic and not very exciting at that. It's one of the cheaper DLCs for good reason, but even at the price I'll still have to throw it into only if you really want it. They're better than the Lithoids, but that's a pretty low bar to clear, so they go no higher than this. Next we have Nemesis. This DLC is split right down the middle in terms of what it gives you. On one hand you have all the endgame Crisis stuff it offers, like Become the Crisis and Galactic Custodian options, which see you bring an end to the galaxy or do everything in your power to prevent it. On the other hand, you have the new espionage actions, which can be performed alongside diplomacy to get intel on other empires and sow chaos across their territory, whilst hopefully remaining undetected. Oh, and you also get the Imperial ship set for some reason. Espionage can be used in every game, but it's hardly a really in-depth system. As for the endgame stuff, it's pretty underwhelming and can be avoided most of the time, especially if you don't play your games to the very end of the time limit. Becoming the Crisis or being elected to stop it can be fun once, but after that, it becomes another chore to complete in the late game. I don't think this DLC is bad, but for full price, it's hard to recommend, so catch it on a sale if you can. Next, we have Aquatic, another species pack, but this one is coming in hot with a relatively high amount of content. Of course, you have the new aquatic cosmetics to make your empire of water dwellers however you like them. You also have 2 new origins to choose from. Here be Dragons, which starts with a space dragon roaming your home system, which can protect you from harm as long as you keep it happy. And Ocean Paradise, which starts you on an ocean world with tons of bonus features, but lose out on nearby guaranteed habitable worlds. Add on the new Aquatic trait, allowing them to happily live on ocean worlds, the Angler Civic, allowing near infinite food, consumer goods, and trade value production on ocean worlds, and the Hydrocentric Ascension perk, allowing you to more easily terraform and colonize planets and habitats, and you've got a fairly full DLC for what amounts to a single playstyle. Now yeah, it's still essentially 2 playthroughs worth of content, so it's not like you'll be playing them forever. But still, 2 is double what most of the other species packs have offered so far, so it's a pretty good choice. That being said, it's a little bit more expensive than the other species packs, so I'd still say if you can catch it on a sale, it's well worth it for the 2 enjoyable origins it will give you, and the cool looking empires you can make. Overlord is next up, and it's one of the harder DLCs to talk about since most of the features it offers will only be used in the super late game by players who really know what they're doing. The main focus is on building up a group of vassals and managing them to get the most out of the agreement for yourself by specialising each one just how you like it. There's also 3 new megastructures, orbital rings, hyper relays, and quantum catapults, and a whopping 5 new origins. The Imperial Fiefdom starts a vassal of a more advanced empire with a specialist vassal of their own. Slingshot to the Stars starts with a ruined quantum catapult nearby and the ability to repair and use it. The Subterranean live better underground and make the most of mining districts. Teacher of the Shroud work alongside Shroudwalker enclaves to uncover the secrets of psionics, and the Progenitor Hives plays an empire of insect-like spawns. Of course, the origins and megastructures can be used for any game, so offer a lot of value there, but the main feature update is pretty niche, so it lies somewhere in the middle. I would say for a newer player to wait until late to pick this one up, since you can have a very complete gameplay experience without it and add on more complexity later. More advanced players, it can offer a lot of fun, so as a compromise it's going in to catch it on a sale, since that way everyone can win and get a decent chunk of more advanced content for a lower price. Next we have Toxoids, and to date this is our final species pack, and don't worry, it's more on the side of the aquatic side of things than anything else. You're getting 2 new, fairly challenging origins with very unique gameplay styles and questlines. Knights of the Toxic God sees you search for a toxic god that visited your people many years ago, and Overtuned enhances your pops beyond the normal limitations at the cost of their lifespans. You also have 3 new civics to pair with these origins, Mutagenic Spars, which increases pop growth at the cost of happiness and habitability, Scavengers, which allows you to research ship debris for research and resources, and Relentless Industrialist, which increases the resource output at the cost of pop growth and the creation of tomb worlds. You also have 4 new traits, Incubators, which grow planets much faster depending on the number of existing pops, Noxious, which causes your pops to be disgusting to be around, but they colonize planets easier and deal more damage with armies, Inorganic Breath, which increases pop upkeep but produces exotic gases from each pop, and Exotic Metabolism, which increases pop growth, habitability, and leader lifespan at the cost of exotic gas upkeep. And of course you have a range of cosmetics, you can look in at just how you want them. Now, as a species pack, it always depends on your preference, but in the interest of spreading them around the tier list a bit more, I'm going to put this one in fun for most people, purely ranking it against the other species packs, since this one to me is the best one with the most content. Don't get me wrong, if this playstyle doesn't appeal to you, they won't magically win you over, but if you're equally interested in all of the species packs, this is probably the best one to get. Next we have First Contact, and this is one of the worst received DLCs if the Steam reviews are anything to go by, and it's hard to disagree. In this DLC you get 3 new origins. Broken Shackles starts with a research disadvantage and a mix of different pops from your previous captor, with them still out there in the galaxy. Payback, you start with a tech and pop disadvantage and an archaeological site in your system that will let you track down some prior invaders, and Fear the Dark, which starts with 1/3 of your pops on a separate planet, wanting to keep themselves and refusing to explore space. You also get some new ways to interact with pre-FTL species, and some cloaking tech. And at the base price, this is not a lot of content. 3 origins technically means 3 different playthroughs, but still it's a little bit steep with basically no content alongside. Cloaking is cool and can be really useful sneaking around, but it's just not worth the price at all. The origins are quite interesting, but they're difficult and again, just not worth it. I have to put this one into must buy. If you really want these origins, at least wait for a massive sale, otherwise it's far too expensive. And finally, we get to Galactic Paragons, the most recent DLC to hit the game and return to mixed Steam reviews, which seems to be the standard for these content packs. This pack expands on the council mechanics that came with the free update, but adding all kinds of new positions for pretty much every empire type you can think of, making it something to play around with for the entire game to min-max your empire. It also adds a leader leveling up system, which feels like it should be in the base game, since picking traits for each level just makes sense, and lets you get some very strong and specialized leaders. The titular Paragons are also here and can be discovered and recruited to your faction as legendary heroes with powerful skill sets. There's also the new Under One Rule origin, which allows you to start with a powerful leader that will get better over time as you solidify their position or replace them with your council. You also get the 2 new tradition trees, aptitude and statecraft, and 8 new civics for a range of different government types. This is a fairly feature-packed DLC, and the only thing really bringing it down is for some reason leaders now have a cap, meaning having more than say 10 leaders in the endgame will result in seriously diminishing returns for their powers and XP gen. I get that they're really powerful, but capping them with no really easy way to raise the cap just grinds your leader game to a halt rather quickly. If it weren't for that, this would be much higher, but as it is, I can't put it any higher than catch it on a sale. The content here is all really great. It's just a shame it's held back by literally one thing. That's my list. If yours is any different, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and if you're hungry for more Stellaris content, then check out this video explaining the wide and tall playstyles and how to play them.